Hello, everyone. I'm Jon Evans, and welcome to another episode of One on One. Bill Medley found success with his partner Bobby Hatfield back in the early 1960s when they left the singing group they were in that was called the Paramours, and they formed the Righteous Brothers. They had number one hits just 2 years later in 1964 with You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin', and in 1965 with You're My Soul and Inspiration. They had several other top 10 singles too over the next decade and were enshrined into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2003, just months before Bobby Hatfield's sudden death. Despite calls to bring back the Righteous Brothers, Bill Medley performed as a solo artist for a long time until he went to hear his friend Bucky Heard sing at a show in Branson, Missouri. That's when Bill Medley realized he'd found another Righteous Brother, and the two have been performing together ever since. And now they're bringing their farewell tour right here to Wilmington. We are joined now by those Righteous Brothers, Bill Medley and Bucky Heard. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time. Welcome to the One on One with Jon Evans podcast.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate
Pleasure
it, John.
to be here.
Yeah, man.
We appreciate it. Bill Medley, still going strong at 84 years young. Bill, I've got to tell you, most people are long retired by then. What keeps you wanting to tour and sing to the audiences?
Pay the rent.
I still have a house mortgage.
Yeah. No, yes, listen, it's the love of the music, and I just feel very blessed and very honored that I can still do this and people are still showing up. I will do it as long as the audience is there, and the audiences are so great, man, because they make you feel like you're 25 years old when you're on stage. Just you start to sing, "You never close your eyes." Now they start to snuggle up and hug, and it's just the love that they show you is just remarkable, and it'll keep me coming. And as long as they're there, I'm there. The traveling, on the other hand, is getting tougher and tougher.
I imagine so. You sang with your original partner, Bobby Hatfield, for decades. Bill, when you first heard Bucky perform, did you know he would be a good partner to go back out on the road?
Yeah, well, Bucky, the cool news about Bucky and I is that we were both in Branson, Missouri, and we actually became friends. Real good friends, and so that's a very important ingredient in a duet, that you're good friends, and yeah, he was doing John Belushi as the Blues Brothers down at the Dick Clark Theater, and and then he left and went down to another theater and started doing. He was doing a lot of Journey songs in the show, and I saw Bucky at a wedding. He said, "Bill, come by and see the show." So I happened to be out that day, and went in to see the show. And
you came to see me die.
Well, I came to see.
He thought I couldn't do it, so that's why he came.
Well, I'll tell you what. The version of Open Arms that is on your website, Bucky, blew me away. And I'm a Journey guy from Lights and Next and everything else like that. But to hear you do that same thing, there's a lot of real soul to your version of it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's Journey's always been. Steve Perry has always been one of my favorite vocalists. But I mean, it's that this is so surreal to me because we talked about. Before we went live, you being exposed to rock and roll heaven as a young DJ, and I was sitting in my room in this tiny little town in Alabama playing the record of Rock and Roll Heaven my mom bought me for my birthday. I mean, and I played that song over and over again, and I'm listening to Bobby Hatfield trying to emulate him. He's one of the greatest tenor voices. Him and Steve Perry are right up there together in my book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's what's one of the things that's just so surreal that I was able to probably do the Steve Perry stuff because I had been practicing doing Bobby Hatfield when I was 10 years old,
So, Bill, when you saw him that night, did you think, I could go out and tour with this guy again?
Well, I'd had so many friends kind of telling me, you know, you ought to keep the Righteous Brothers music alive and and all that. And it took me 13 years. I wasn't looking to reform the Righteous Brothers. I was just I was just trying to stay. That's why I was in Branson, Missouri. I was just trying to stay busy musically, and I thought, well, that will probably be the end of my career in Branson. And but that's where Bucky and I met. And yeah, when I heard him singing Journey, and I knew he was a Bobby Hatfield fan, and I knew if he could do Steve Perry, he probably could do Bobby Hatfield. And I was walking on the lake. I'll never forget it. On the lake, now I'm Jesus. I was.
I knew you could walk on water.
Yeah,
I knew it.
I caught a cold doing it.
Yeah, I bet you did.
I was walking around the lake. And I said, "Man, if in fact I was going to do that, this guy, you know, Bucky would be the guy." Like I mentioned earlier, that we were good friends, and that was a real important thing to me. And the friendship has just grown and grown and grown. And musically, Bucky's always cut it, you know. And but it's just real important that you get along, you know, because you're on that stage. Yeah. And you have to have each other's back, and I know Bucky has got my back and my wallet.
That's right. I'm not kidding.
But so it's a real God thing, man. We can't figure it out. We were signed to do 3 months in Las Vegas, and now it's turned in at 10 years.
It's awesome, but Bucky, I can imagine you did a lot of performance. You did theater, you did some rock stuff, but going out on stage for the first time with a Hall of Famer like the man who's sitting next to you, I imagine there had to be some butterflies.
Oh, it was terrifying. I mean, when Bill finally, I was at a concert with a friend of mine. We were getting ready to go and see. I think it was Van Halen. And anyway, we were in the hotel and Bill called me and said, you know, I guess we're going to Vegas for 3 months. And I got off the phone and my buddy said, so, and I said, oh, I guess I'm a Righteous Brother. We're going to Vegas for 3 months. And he's jumping up and down, screaming, so excited, like, oh my God. And he goes, weren't you freaking out? And I said, I am freaking out, but in a completely different way than you are. And when that curtain came up for the first time, I just felt, you know, and Bill's been so wonderful, but that first show and even into the first year or so, you know, you can't blame people. They grew up with Bobby. Bobby's a part of their life. And all of a sudden somebody's stepping in, you know, people, it took a little time, you know, for people to accept me, but.
No, that's not true.
It felt like it.
I think, yeah, maybe to you, but I had 2 questions, and we opened our show. Our first show was at a place called
Riverside Casino in
Laughlin, Nevada. And I wanted to go there because we could do 5 nights in a row, and I knew we could go die there, and nobody would know. Nobody would know. So I came down, and I had two questions. Are they going to accept Bucky as a Righteous Brother? And do they even care that there is a Righteous Brothers? And the place sat about 800 people, and we were there for 5 nights. And I came down and asked my road manager, I said, how are we doing? He said, it's sold out. I said, well, that's cool. I hope the other nights. He says, no, you're sold out for the whole engagement. And we started to do the show. And about the 4th song in the show, Bucky does Crying by Roy Orbison.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted him to do a song that wasn't related to Bobby. So I left the stage while he did it, and when I came walking back out, they were giving him a standing ovation. So in about 20 minutes, I had both of my questions answered, and he's just done a phenomenal job, and he's a great partner.
It's been amazing.
I was going to say, is it intimidating at all, Bucky? I mean, and as I was doing some research for this yesterday, I kind of did the math, and You've Lost That Love and Feeling is actually older than you are.
It came out the year I was born.
Right, like 3 months before. And so you're singing a song, and obviously with Bobby and everything else like that. But that's a generation kind of before you as far as being liked is concerned.
Yeah, but I was raised old school. I lost my mom real young. She was 58 when she passed, and but she brought me my first album, which was Chuck Berry's Greatest Hits.
Yeah.
And I've done multiple 50s and 60s review shows. But when I was little, man, I listened to Elvis Presley. I listened to Glenn Campbell. I listened to the Righteous Brothers. I listened to, B.B. King and a lot of the blues artists. But I was a big fan of the 50s and 60s music. And so, I kind of had an old soul when it came to that anyway. So, I just kind of fell into it because that's some of the greatest music ever performed or written was in the 60s and 70s, right when he came out. And that was kind of my wheelhouse. So, I've done a lot of theater and stuff, but my soul is in those classics.
For years, Bill, I always wondered how the Righteous Brothers band was named and how you two were dubbed the Righteous Brothers, but it has to do with how people reacted to some of your music, correct?
Yeah, Bobby and I were playing a little club, and it was in Orange County, which is about 40 miles south of L.A., and it was very white Orange County at that time. And but there was a Marine base there, El Toro Marine Base, and there was a couple of some Marines heard that there was these two white guys down at the club singing rhythm and blues, because that's what Bobby and I were raised on. And so they started coming down, and like if you had a great looking car, us white guys would say, "Boy, what a cool looking car." And a lot of times the black guys would say, "Boy, what a righteous looking car," which meant good. And if they liked you as a friend, they would call you a brother. So they started, when we would like show up for work or whatever, they'd say, "Hey, righteous brother, how you doing?" And I wrote a song, Little Latin Oopie Loo, and
right.
they wanted to record it. And so we went in the studio and made the record. And we didn't even have a name. And so I think it was Bobby said, "Well, let's go with that, what the Marines have been calling us, the Righteous Brothers." I said, "Well, what about the Beatles?"
I think that's taken.
Not much anymore.
Oh.
So we went with the Righteous Brothers, and it stuck, so thank God.
Fans may not realize that you guys put out 4 records before Lovin' Feelin came out. So, I mean, you weren't like an overnight smash, right?
Yeah, no, we had two different careers. We had a career from about 62 or 63 to 65 to where we did nothing but rhythm and blues. And for all those years, they thought we were black. So it wasn't a very smart thing for us to do, but we didn't know any better, and we were just raised on R&B, and then we started doing Shindig, which was a national rock and roll TV show, and we started getting noticed and known, and we recorded Lovin' Feelin about the same time, and everything just blew open.
Bucky, how close are you and Bill? Are you like brothers almost? I know there's a little bit of an age difference, but are you guys close?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just funny how, like Bill told you before, everything as far as getting us together as a musical group happened so organically, but our friendship, like Bill loves, like both of us love boxing. We both are football fanatics. So we'll go up to, the San Bernardino Mountains in Idlewild, which we love to go. We'll spend a weekend up there, just the two of us hanging out watching football. And, we enjoy, we all have the same, both of us, we think the best TV shows ever created are Seinfeld and the Andy Griffith Show. And I mean, we just have the same taste in everything. It's like, it's like we're brothers. It is. It's like, and it's, like I said earlier, I lost my mom and my wife's parents are no longer with us, and my dad. So Bill's real close with my family. My daughter's 19, and she's grew up. No, she's known him for 10 years now. So calls him Uncle Bill. He's family. We just enjoy spending time together on and off the stage. That's why I think our stage performance is so great. And I'm not saying that being cocky or anything. It's just we're real on stage. It's like sometimes we forget the audience is there. Well, he'll sit at the piano and we'll start doing well, what do you know, man? We did this. No. I think we should play this Jerry Lee Lewis song. We'll all of a sudden realize there's an audience there. And you're like, oh, sorry, we'll be with you in a minute, But we bring that to the stage. You can, I think Bill feels that way too. We just love each other, and he's great. He's just, aside from this magical ride I've been on, just getting to know him as a person and being a friend of his for the last 20 years now, but 10 years working together, couldn't have asked for anything better.
Bill, I heard an interview with you. It's probably about a decade old, but you talked about Lovin' Feelin, that it really kind of succeeded against a lot of odds. It was longer than many songs were, and Phil Spector obviously knew what he was doing, but you also said that a lot of people thought it was on the wrong speed at the beginning, right?
Well, yeah, in reality, the song was written to be, you never close your eyes anymore. It was like supposed to be like a Four Tops song, but right. I couldn't get to the high notes, so they would lower it. Every time they'd lower it, they'd slow it down. So when I got to you never close your eyes, when we finally got it, just sounded like a totally different record, and extremely emotional, but we loved the song, but we just knew it wasn't a hit because it was too long, way too long, twice. The record had to be about 2.5 minutes long, and Lovin' Feelin was over 4 minutes, and it sounded like I was on the wrong speed. Because in those days it was all little, tenor voices, but I think everything that was wrong with it made it very special, and we were just thrilled that it fell through the crack. And as a disc jockey, John, you'll appreciate this. A lot of the disc jockeys said we loved Lovin' Feelin because it was a great party song. We could go to the party. We could go to the restroom while we were playing it. So the record made us a big hit.
Yeah, like In-A-Gadda Da Vida. That was a DJ's best friend. It was like 11 minutes long.
Stairway to Heaven and go pee.
In-A-Gadda Da Vida, Stairway, all those songs that were 8 minutes long.
Freebird.
Coffee, bathroom breaks, they were built in. Yeah. You actually have a connection to North Carolina. You may not know this, but Dirty Dancing was filmed in North Carolina at Lake Lure. Yeah. And Bill, I also heard that at one point in time when that came to you, you kind of shied away from it. True?
Well, yeah. Jimmy Einer called me from New York and said, and I didn't know who he was. And he said, I'm putting the music together for this movie, and we want you to sing this one song. And I said, well, what? Because I had just finished doing a Sylvester Stallone movie, singing a song, and it was a duet with Gladys Knight. And so when he said, it's a duet, you and a girl, and I said, well, what's the name of the movie? He said, it's called Dirty Dancing. I said, that sounds like a bad porno movie. and my wife Paula was expecting our child, McKenna, and so I said, I can't do it. I'm a California boy, and they wanted me to go to New York. And I said, I can't go. I promised Paul and my wife that I'd be there for the birth. Well, she finally had the child, and I told her, please have the child. I need a hit record. But she had the child, and they came to California to do it, and they said Jennifer Warnes wants to sing the song if she can do it with you. And we thought the movie was probably a joke, you know. It ain't nothing's going to happen with it. It's just a small little movie, and so Jenny and I really went in the studio wanting to sing together because it was a great it was a Beauty and the Beast, obviously me being the Beast, and
Had you clarify? Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, and I had to clarify that, like I'm the Beauty, and so we just went into, but I did turn it down for about 2 months, and thank God they stayed with me, and we finally did it. And like I say, Jennifer and I just wanted to sing together, and it was so much fun doing the record with her, and it turned out to be a great record, and I wasn't expecting it at all.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those records, I think, that I can still remember when my first son was born, Jonathan. When he was about 5 years old, my wife's mom, my mother-in-law, would put that on the stereo. She'd put the CD in, and she would dance with my son to that song. That was her favorite song of all time. And as soon as it comes on, it takes me back to that living room with my mother-in-law dancing with my son Jonathan at about 4 or 5 years old, and him dancing with her. And I think it's those little memories that families all around the country and around the world have to so many of your songs that I think make them so special.
Well, it makes it all worthwhile just to have your mother-in-law and your son dancing. That's a good enough reason right there to record it, and because that's really what music is about, man.
Yeah,
it's about love and
memories.
Yeah, and that's what our audience, you know, they come to hear those songs. We know that, you know, they're not necessarily coming to see Bill and Bucky. They're coming there to hear Lovin', Feelin', Unchained Melody, those songs. So we do all those songs in the show. So about 99% of our show is hit records that they want to hear, but we do a couple of surprises that our favorite thing to hear when when we see them, when we go out in front and sign autographs, that they'll say, boy, we didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And that's such a great compliment. Hopefully they meant it was a good thing. I don't know if I didn't expect it to be that bad.
Yeah.
But they say, you know, the show is so great, we didn't expect to be that entertained.
Bucky, I've had the pleasure for years of emceeing a show here in the Wilmington area called Best Foot Forward. It's school kids performing in front of parents and a couple of thousand people in one of the big gyms. And I tell people the best part of it for me was when a child or a performer for the first time is up on stage and they get done and they're doing their dancing or they're doing their singing, and there's a moment from the time they finish till the time the audience feedback comes at them and applause that they're not sure how they did. And then the audience wave comes at them with applause, and the face just lights up. And I haven't found a word for that yet. But do you still get those thrills when you're done something, you hit those notes, you stop, then there's that second, and then all of a sudden the audience appreciation comes your way?
Yeah, man, that's cool that you said it that way. It is a magical, it's like a twilight. It's like a magical moment when that happens. And it still is. It still is. And every, you know, a lot of people say, and this is kind of related a little bit to what you're saying, they'll ask Bill and me, especially Bill, having done this for as long as he has, you know, how do you go out and sing these songs over and over again every night for all these years? Bill, 60 years singing these songs, and 10 years us going out. How do you do that? And how do you keep it fresh and everything? And, you know, to me, every audience is different. And like Bill Bill has a great analogy, which I never thought of. I think it's brilliant. He said, every audience is like a first date. You know, you put on your best clothes. You want to be funny. You want to sound your best. You want to say the right things. And every night you're going out with a different first date. And that's such a great way to think of it. So every time the end of the song or whatever you're doing, that moment, you don't know how they're going to react. You know, that excitement is always there. It never, ever, ever stops, which is very, very cool, which is one of the things, like Bill, we always talk, it's like a drug being on stage. You know, it's a love exchange between you and the audience. And if you're a true entertainer, it's something you can't live without. You know, it's like, I can't imagine doing anything else ever other than being on stage and singing these songs and sharing our gift. You know, it's a blessing. It's such a blessing to be able to experience that. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Said it very well.
Yeah, and for you guys to still experience it, to me, is cool. To see it in an 8 or a 9 or a 10-year-old little boy or a little girl
yes. Oh my God.
who's memorized their dance step and who's done this, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, did I do okay? And then,
like
boom, the
and then
wave just hits.
Life.
Yeah, it
but
is.
It's such a confidence builder. That's why the arts are so important for children. That's why I support anything, you know, when they started talking about trying to take arts out of school and stuff, you know, they leaning towards that. I mean, that's not even a political issue one way or the other. The arts needs to stay in the school. It builds such confidence for kids. I wrote a children's musical called Rockumentally, and we put it on for a couple of years in Branson. And the same thing, when you see these little kids, you know, and I was a music theater teacher at a small school in Branson for a little while as well. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's just such a wonderful, exciting thing to watch these kids get up there and experience that for the first time. And you're right, that moment of, oh my God. And then they get this, and then they're like, you can see the confidence just go. Yeah. It's wonderful.
That's one of the gifts that I take away from doing this, is being able to see that, because not many people can see up close and what these kids' eyes are. And I agree with you. The arts is so
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Bill, you've worked alongside a lot of famous people. You know, Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys, and you were with Elvis for a while. Is there anybody that you wished you would have been able to work with that you never got a chance to?
Long time ago, I suppose I would have loved to do a duet with Little Richard. I would have loved to do a duet with Ray Charles, and actually even Frank Sinatra, who first time we went to Vegas, it was with Frank Sinatra. And but as today, I would love to sing with Bruno Mars or Chris Stapleton.
Lady Gaga, you would.
Oh, well, Lady Gaga, of course. Or even Elton John, Billy Joel. And almost got a chance to do all that, but it fell apart.
Is anything special about any of those, Mr. Charles or Mr. Sinatra, that just the talent level they had?
Well, yeah, it's that, and that I'm really coming from. They taught me how to sing. All those guys, they used to come to my house every day in the form of a record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they came into my house.
That's great.
And they played it and played it. It was like they were there teaching me. And I just finished an album called Straight from the Heart. And I did a duet with Michael McDonald on a song called Crying Time.
So good.
And it was so much fun to sing with Michael, because he would have been one of my first, if I could choose anybody to sing with, it would be Michael. And I did a duet with Vince Gill and Keb Mo and Sean Colvin and on this album. So singing with Michael was a real thrill for me, because we were both kind of raised on the same music and he's younger than I am, but so is Dirt. And
but the two of you singing together, man, that was a very epitome of Blue Eye Soul.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that.
Crying Time, that Buck Owens classic, and the two of them together. I was in the studio with them, just sitting there going, am I watching this? My God. It was absolutely breathtaking uh, to hear these two voices blend like they did.
Oh, that
It's a great record. He just made his Grand Ole Opry debut about a week ago
Yeah.
at the Grand Ole Opry, and you were talking about "Time of My Life." He sang a couple of songs off his new record, which you did. He Stopped Loving Her Today,
Yeah.
old George Jones classic, and then he did Unchained Melody. He came out, his daughter came out, and they did "Time of My Life." And there was these 21-year-old girls. I think they were probably at a bachelorette party. That's Nashville is the bachelorette capital of the world. And these little girls, they're sitting there and they're applauding. And all of a sudden, "Time of My Life" comes on, and they're dancing in the aisles. And it's a realization, like you said earlier, how timeless.
yeah.
You have daughters and granddaughters, and daughters and grandmothers, like three
Yeah.
generations sometimes sitting there that he's touched their lives at different times. It's pretty amazing.
Bill, what was that like, the Grand Ole Opry for you?
Scary after all the shows that I've
He
ever
killed
done.
it. It was so good.
But it was, I'm
So good.
I'm stepping in. I've done a lot of country. I mean, I opened for Alabama and Loretta Lynn and Kenny and Glenn Campbell, and so I just always loved country music. I'm a blues singer, and if you can do a sad George Jones song, that's about as good of blues I feel that you can do. And those older sad country songs like "Born to Lose" and "I Can't Stop Love," that's at least as far as I'm concerned, and what I can do. That's the best. That's the best Bill Medley, at least you're going to get.
We talked before we got started here today that, my first radio job, I played Rock and Roll Heaven, and it made #3 on Billboard. But the one thing, along with not knowing who it was at the time you were talking about, was that it started with the chorus, and then the verse came in behind it. Was that done for a reason, or was that just the way it kind of came out?
That's a good question, and I've thought about that a million times because you don't normally do that. But
Right.
I think the producers felt that it was such a commercial sounding hook that it was, and I thought, and that's a great idea because it just starts out with like really good energy, and
Yeah.
then when we come in, it all works. But you're exactly right. That's probably one of the only records that's ever started from the chorus.
And Bucky, the thing about that song too is that the original came out, but then lyrics were added tragically to honor a John Lennon or a Keith Moon or some of the other ones. So that song really can continue ad infinitum.
Yeah, yeah. Like I've told Bill it'd be amazing to even recut it and include some of the artists that we've lost, in the recent years. People like Tina Turner and just those icons that are just. That's why it's such amazing. I tell everybody, not only does he sound great, Bill still sings amazing, and his performance is top level. As good as he's ever sounded, I think. But Bill's an icon. And we're losing too many of these icons, and so it's really been so beautiful to come out and play. Like we played some 2,000 seaters recently, and to see the love that he's getting, and he's also. And I told him, I said, the audience members, a lot of them are older, but he's encouraging them in such a way, like they see him up on stage at 84. Going to be 85 this year, singing his face off and all that energy. I said, you know how many people out there you're encouraging that might be walking into that theater that night going, I'm feeling old, and they're going to come out of there feeling, you know what, man, it ain't over yet. I've still got some life left in me. Bill's doing it. He's up there killing it. I can do it too. So it's just like I said, it's just been an amazing on so many levels. And the show is just as strong as it's ever been. And like I said, his new album is just off the charts good. I encourage everybody. It's called Straight from the Heart, and you just released it on Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah. And by the way, Bucky has a new album coming out too, and it's just sensational. And he
Thank you, man.
took more of a kind of a country rock, or what would you call it?
We're trying to bring back that
Americana?
Bob Seger sound, man.
Well, I'll tell you what. When I was doing research for this interview, I went to your website, Bucky, and I heard Bill talk at one point in time about going to see you doing a Journey tribute, and I saw Open Arms there and clicked on it, and I was like, man, that's a gift. It's a gift.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's yeah, Steve Perry, like I said, he is one of my idols as far as vocalists, and then again, I love those gravelly rock singers like Bob Seger and John Fogerty, which was interesting because when Bill came to my show, I was also doing some Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I oddly enough, when you hear Bobby Hatfield sing, he's got the most beautiful, pristine, like that Steve Perry, clean, pristine tenor voice, but then he can also, like, he can get in the trenches and growl with the best of them, like, bring it all back, when he's doing Lovin' Feelin.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was a God thing. When Bill came to my show, he kind of saw me do two elements of what Bobby does. So I always say Steve Perry helped me get this gig.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why you got this gig. He talks like me and sings like Bobby. That's how he got the gig.
Everybody says, you sound like you've been swallowing gravel. How do you sing like that? I'm like, well, when I hit puberty, I started sounding like Wolfman Jack.
Bill, do you think Bobby is looking down and enjoying you and Bucky performing the songs?
Oh, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's thrilled that because we pay big tribute to Bobby all through the show, and I just feel blessed that we can go out there and yell about Bobby Hatfield and the music, and that we can still do it. And I couldn't do it without Bucky, but I'm sure Bobby's looking down saying, yeah, man, yeah.
Keep it going, baby.
The Righteous Brothers, Bill Medley and Bucky Heard, bring their Lovin' Feelin farewell tour to southeastern North Carolina, Friday, March 14th, when they perform at the Wilson Center in downtown Wilmington. We have a link inside this story on our website and our news app where you can get tickets. Bill Medley, it has been an honor having you here. Bucky Heard, you as well. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedules. I know it's going to be packed at the Wilson Center. There are Righteous Brothers fans everywhere. Thank you for taking the time today and joining me on the One-on-One with Jon Evans podcast. I had an absolute blast today.
We did too.
We had the time of our life.
Oh, I see how you did that. See how he did that?
Push.
Thanks, John.
A big thank you to Bill Medley and Bucky Heard, the Righteous Brothers, for taking time from their schedule and joining us for the episode of the One-on-One with Jon Evans podcast. Bill Medley is still recording new material at the age of 84. How cool is that? He just released a new record. You just heard them talk about it. It came out in February. It's called Straight from the Heart. You can find out more about that at the website righteousbrothers.com, and you could follow Bucky Heard's music on his website. It's buckyheard.com. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please follow or subscribe to the One-on-One with Jon Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you would be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. We really do care what you think of our interviews. And the more feedback we get from friends like you, the higher we'll be listed on the apps, the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm Jon Evans. Thanks for joining us for this really cool episode of One-on-One.